I never imagined this heartbreaking journey would lead me to 8 powerful lessons on making money. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was a regular Wednesday, but it felt like the sky was falling. I was sitting in my tiny, dimly lit apartment, staring at a pile of bills that threatened to swallow me whole. My fingers trembled as I reached for the envelope that I dreaded the most. The final notice. My heart raced, and tears blurred my vision. I felt so lost, so alone. Behind me, my phone buzzed relentlessly. It was my best friend Jake, checking in on me. He always had a way of knowing when I was at my lowest. I didn't respond. Couldn't. It was like I was trapped in this dark vortex, and all I wanted was to escape. But I couldn't forget the warm memories of laughter and late-night talks we shared. Those moments felt like distant dreams now. The silence in the room was suffocating. I needed a lifeline. That's when I stumbled upon it. An old notebook buried beneath stacks of forgotten dreams and abandoned projects. Each page was filled with my childish scrawls about success, money, and all the ambitious ideas I had once believed in. My heart ached as I flipped through it, the weight of my past hopes crashing into my present despair. And that's when I came across strange notes, things I jotted down during my happiest moments. Things that felt like they belonged to someone else. Find the perfect opportunity. Network like it's your last chance. I could almost hear my younger self whispering the words to me. Was it possible those scribbled lines held answers? Questions raced through my mind. Could I still make it? Was success lurking just beyond my reach? Those notes sparked something in me, a flicker of hope amid the chaos. I could feel it clawing at my insides. I knew I had to dig deeper, follow the clues that mysteriously appeared in my life. Each lesson seemed to unravel secrets I never realized existed. The air hummed with possibility. But then, there was a knock at my door. I froze, my heart pounding. Who could it be? My pulse quickened as I imagined the worst debt collectors. Someone come to deliver more bad news. But perhaps it was the key to everything changing. The door was ajar, my anxiety flaring with each tiny squeak of the hinges. I had to know. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The door creaked open slowly, and my heart raced in anticipation. But standing there, silhouetted against the dimly lit hallway, was not a grim figure demanding payment. Instead, it was Jake, his face a mixture of concern and determination. He stood there, a steady force amidst my storm, lifting my spirits in ways I never anticipated. Hey, he said softly, stepping into my cluttered apartment, uninvited yet welcomed. I was worried about you. I knocked when I didn't hear back, and I could feel something was off. That I felt a wave of warmth wash over me, the gravity of his concern grounding the chaotic whirlwind inside. I'm fine, I mumbled, but the quiver in my voice betrayed me. Jake raised an eyebrow, unimpressed by my veneer of strength. Really? Because it looks like you're drowning in bills and nostalgia. He glanced at the open notebook in my hands, a relic of a brighter, untainted past. You're not fine, but you will be. Well, get through this, he added firmly, as if issuing a promise. I wanted to believe him, to lean into his unwavering faith. But the crushing weight of failure still loomed large over my heart. I don't even know where to start, I admitted, my voice barely a whisper. It feels overwhelming. Start by turning those notes into action, he suggested, his tone lightening as a smile broke through the heaviness. What were you planning to do with those ideas? Everything begins with a single step. For a moment, I was swept away by the potential hiding in my half-hearted scribbles. But reality intruded like an uninvited guest. What if I fail? Jake shrugged, his confidence radiating. What if you fly? You won't know until you try. His encouragement ignited a tiny ember of hope in me. Maybe I could turn those forgotten ambitions into something tangible. It wouldn't be easy, but I didn't have to traverse this journey alone. Just as I began to contemplate the possibilities, the familiar buzz of my phone interrupted our conversation. I glanced at the screen and saw the name I had been avoiding, me landlord, flashing with a sense of urgency. My throat tightened at the thought of dealing with him, yet another reminder of my precarious situation. I should let it wait, Jake interjected, settling onto the tattered couch that looked almost alien amid the chaos of the rest. You have to take a moment. Just breathe. We'll figure this out together. I'm here to help you get back on your feet. And with that, the haze of despair began to lift, if only just slightly. I took a deep inhale, allowing myself to feel the small comfort of his presence before shaking my head. I don't want to drag you into this, Jake. You have your own plans, your own life. Jake shifted, tilting his head as if weighing my words. But I care about you. You're my best friend. I want to support you, and watching you spiral like this hurts. Let's brainstorm some ideas together. You don't have to do it alone. This journey might just lead to something incredible. As we delved into my old notebook, our brainstorming session felt like stepping into a light I hadn't known existed. The ideas flowed, ranging from selling handmade crafts online to starting a blog sharing my experiences. Each suggestion felt like uncovering a new layer of myself that had long been buried. After hours of laughter and brainstorming, the sun dipped below the horizon, throwing shadows across my room, but it didn't dim the spark ignited within. The moment was electric. It felt like we were rewriting my narrative together as Jake stood to leave. A sudden knock echoed through the apartment again. My heart sank, fearing it might be bad news once more. But the second surprise dissolved that worry quickly. It was the local mail carrier. Standing at my door with a small package in hand, I blinked in confusion. Packages were a rarity these days. Most of my funds went to keeping the electric on. The mail carrier looked at me with a knowing smile. Special delivery. Thought you might appreciate a little pick-me-up. I reached out hesitantly and took the package, realizing it was from my grandmother. She had always been my source of support and wisdom. With shaking hands, I opened the small box, revealing a simple note and a handful of bills, more than I expected. Yet a blessing nonetheless. The note read, "In times of need, may you find the strength that has always been within you. Don't hesitate to rise again." Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. My heart swelled with gratitude and a sense that maybe the universe wasn't completely against me. I looked up at Jake, who was smiling encouragingly, but my mind raced with new fears. What would I do with this money? Was it enough to truly change my situation? I felt the pressure to do something monumental rather than let this opportunity vanish like the warmth of the afternoon sun. And just as my thoughts spiraled, a phone call came through, this time, my mother. Anxiety washed over me as I reluctantly answered. "Hello?" Her voice trembled on the other end. "I have some news." The pause stretched out, like a thin thread on the verge of snapping, and I braced myself for whatever lay beyond. What had happened now? And why did it sound as though her heart was as heavy as mine? My mother's voice quavered again. "It's about your father. He's not well." The words hung in the air, sharp and piercing. A new weight added to the burdens straining my life. A chill ran through me as I processed her statement. The last time I'd seen him, our relationship had been an icy expanse, riddled with regret and unresolved tension. "What do you mean?" My words came out strangled, caught in the knot that had formed in my throat. "They found something, a lump in his lung. The doctors say it could be serious," she continued, her voice shaky as though she were teetering on the brink of collapse. Panic surged through me, clashing with the flickering hope I had felt just moments ago. "How serious? Has he been seen?" I fired questions at her, a mix of fear and anger bubbling to the surface. Anger at the situation, anger at him for pushing us all away, for not taking better care of himself. "Not yet. He wouldn't go. He's stubborn. Just like you," she choked out, and I could almost see the tears streaming down her cheeks. In that instant, the emotional labyrinth I had been navigating twisted further, and suddenly I found myself at a crossroads. The pressure of the looming debt and my own aspirations felt like a mountain on my back. But how could I ignore this? How could I focus on my own growth when my father might need me now more than ever? Why didn't you tell me sooner? I asked, swallowing hard against the rising tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. I didn't want to worry you, she pleaded. But maybe you could talk to him. Be there for him. I think he really needs you now. Just like that, my landscape shifted. I was no longer just grappling with my own demons. I was thrust back into the painful narrative of my family. The father I had pushed away during my darkest hours now needed my help, and part of me craved that connection while another part feared how it would unravel my already frayed life. As the conversation ended, my heart pounded in disarray. The idea of facing my father was daunting, entangled in years of unresolved resentment. What if he was angry with me? What if he rejected my attempts to mend what had been broken? I can't just abandon you, I said, my eyes searching Jake's for understanding. He nodded, his expression naturally leaning toward empathetic concern. You won't, he assured me softly. You can do both. You can be there for your dad while still taking steps toward your own goals. You don't have to choose one or the other. I had thought I could finally see a glimmer of clarity on my path, but now it felt obscured again by shadows and memories I wasn't ready to confront. Yet, there was a part of me that remembered the warmth in my grandmother's word-soft strength lurking just beneath the surface, and perhaps that strength would propel me forward. Maybe it's time to face my past, I murmured, looking down at the bills still cradled in my palm, the lifeline she had extended to me in this fragile moment. That I think it is, Jake agreed gently. And he'll be right here with you, every step of the way. With that, we began to discuss a plan how I could manage both supporting my father and revitalizing the remnants of my dreams. As we brainstormed, a sense of tangible hope returned, like a soft light breaking through the clouds. This time, however, that light felt fragile, dancing on the edge of uncertainty, knowing a storm was rising. How could I balance this newfound mission of caring for my father while still honoring my own aspirations? I opened my mouth to voice another worry, but then the phone rang again. The screen shimmered with the name I had dreaded most, my landlord's number, and with it, the immense pressure of life's challenges pressed down anew. Answer it, Jake urged, and I nodded, though my heart raced with dread. Hello? My voice wobbled, apprehensive. Good evening, my landlord said, with a tone that felt all too pleased with itself. I just wanted to remind you that rent is overdue. His words echoed in my ears like a painful reminder of every failure that had led me here. I could feel the walls closing in, the floor trembling beneath my uncertainty. And so, I stood at the precipice of father's illness lingering like a dark cloud overhead, my finances spiraling out of control, and dreams I dared to rekindle threatening to crumble into dust. Suddenly, amidst all the noise, a thought rippled through Muhat. If finally confronting my father could spark a change not just in our relationship, but in my own life as well, a path to both healing and growth, fragile yet drenched in possibility. Yet, just as I contemplated this new hope, another knock echoed through the apartment, this time sharper, more insistent. My heart froze. Who else could possibly bring news? With Jake by my side, I opened the door, ready to face whatever awaited beyond. What stood before us both sent shockwaves through me, a figure from my past, the last person I had ever expected to see. I stood at the door, my mind racing as I processed the figure before me. Olivia, me first love, stood there, looking as both stunning and heart-wrenching as I remembered. Time had been both kind and cruel, etching lines of maturity on her familiar face, but her eyes, those wells of warmth, flickered with concern and longing. What are you doing here? I managed to ask, my voice a low whisper that barely broke the weight of the moment. I heard about your dad, she said softly, her brow furrowing in sympathy. I wanted to make sure you were okay. Behind me, I felt Jake shift, his presence a reassuring anchor. But that anchor also made me acutely aware of the churning tide, insidian emotional tempest of nostalgia and regret. I could barely comprehend how, after years of silence, she appeared just as I was drowning in family chaos. I am fine, I said, but the tremor in my voice betrayed the facade. The truth was layered beneath my skin, threatening to seep out with every breath. Silence settled briefly as she searched my face, and it was as though she could read the storm within. "You're not fine. It's okay if you're not," she finally said, her voice honed with kindness that pierced the rush of adrenaline coursing through my veins. "I just wanted to be here for you." I stepped aside, granting her entry into the dim atmosphere of my life. A complicated mixture of emotions whirled through me, and for a brief second, I was transported back to the summer evenings filled with laughter, dreams, and an innocence that felt forever lost in the cruel aftermath of time. She hesitated, the fragile hope dissipating between us. "Is he really sick?" I nodded, feeling the heaviness settle again in my chest. "Lung cancer," I whispered. "They found a lump." Her breath hitched audibly, and for a moment, I noticed a flicker of something deep in her eyes, a mixture of pain and a desire to mend the gulf that had formed between us. "I'm so sorry," she murmured. "I wish I could help more." In that moment, I felt waves of conflict crashing against the shores of my recollections. The love we had known felt so distant yet palpable. After everything, after the way we had parted, I began to wonder if reconciliation could sprout from such a barren patch of soil. If compassion could lead us back from the brinks of our past failures. "I really appreciate that, Olivia." I swallowed hard, contemplating not just the frailty of my father's condition but the fragility of my and Olivia's connection too. "But right now, I don't even know what I need beyond the bills piling up and a father who might not have much time left." "I can help with that too," she said, her gaze steady. "I have some connections that could help you find financial assistance or work. We could get you back on track, or at the very least make this bearable." A surge of gratitude mixed with disbelief washed over me. "You'd really do that?" I asked, the surprise igniting a flicker of hope within me. "Of course," she replied softly, stepping closer, her presence bringing a warmth that contrasted with the chill of uncertainty that had filled the room. "We might not have ended on the best terms, but that doesn't erase what we shared. I want to help you. I always have." As we began to discuss possibilities, I felt a little of the crushing weight lift, but fear loomed nearby. Would the goodwill of our past be enough to sustain us through the present tempest? Jake remained silent, his eyes darting between us, sensing the current of emotion thrumming in the air. "Can I join this little meeting?" he quipped, trying to ease the tension. I smiled weakly, grateful for his presence, the anchor in this tumultuous sea. We spent the next hour fleshing out ideas, Olivia pulling out her phone, rattling off names of people who could potentially help. She was alive with a purpose. It felt surreal and comforting, yet it also pushed against my maddening fear of hope. But then, an unsettling thought intruded my mind. What if this gesture was temporary? What if I allowed myself to lean into this camaraderie only to find it brittle once again when hard truth knocked at my door, a truth about my father's health, my finances, and the emotional scars we all bore? As that question hung palpably in the air, a sudden email notification pinged on my laptop, a message I had been awaiting but dreaded. "Hold on," I muttered, my fingers trembling as I swung the screen toward me. The words on that digital paper consumed me, twisting the hopeful moment into a shadow of fear. My application for financial assistance had been denied. My breath caught, and the room seemed to spin. I looked up, panic suffocating the fragile connection forged moments before. No. The world blurred as my heart shattered all over again. How could everything I hoped for slip away so quickly? Olivia reached for me. Jake's concerned gaze didn't let go. But in that instant, all I felt was the impending darkness surround me once more. "Everything's going to be okay," she whispered. But now, the cracks in my armor felt wider than before, imbued with the weight of my father's health and the overwhelming specter of impending doom lurking in every shadowed corner. I knew we were merely grasping at threads, and the unraveling had only just begun. The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in, the air thick with grief and despair. I leaned back in my chair, hands trembling, the light from my laptop flickering like the last embers of a fire fighting against the dark. Olivia and Jake remained by my side, but their presence felt distant, like they were in a different world, one where hope could flourish and the future didn't seem predetermined by pain. How can they deny me? I uttered, the words catching in my throat. I can barely keep up with the rent, and now I can't even afford my dad's treatment? My voice cracked, revealing the jagged edges of fear and helplessness that lay just beneath the surface. Maybe there's a mistake? Olivia suggested, her brow furrowing with concern as she leaned over to examine the screen. It's possible to appeal. We just have to figure out how. But her words felt like attempts to patch a sinking ship. I could see the worry etched on Jake's face, his eyes searching mine for some glimmer of strength that I no longer possessed. It's not just money, you guys, I said bitterly, my voice rising with the swell of despair. It's everything. If that's true, if there's nothing we can do, I couldn't finish the thought. Jake cleared his throat, shifting the tension in the room. We don't know the whole story yet. There has to be a way to make this work. His tone was steady, like a steady stream finding a path through rock. What about some local fundraisers or community resources? Fundraisers? I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. And have my father's illness become some charity event? No way, that feels wrong. Not if it helps, Olivia interjected, placing a hand on my shoulder. It's about the community coming together. You're not alone in this, remember? People care. They'll want to help. For a moment, her warmth trickled through my chilling despair, offering a sense of connection that I desperately needed. But an immediate thought dashed that flicker of hope. What if I asked for help and nobody showed up? What if the love I once knew had faded into nothing but distant memories, unable to bridge the chasm of time and regret? And yet, amidst my swirling doubts, something deep inside urged me to consider the unlikely. Maybe that's an option, I mumbled, the idea feeling foreign yet strangely comforting. Jake nodded, warming to the thought. We can organize something, simply community bake sale or a yard sale. People love coming together for a good cause. We could even set up a GoFundMe page. The thought started to take root, and despite the stranglehold of negativity feeding my fears, I found myself trying to envision tables laden with baked goods, a community rallying together. It felt uncomfortably vulnerable, but what choice did I have? The fight to keep my dad's health afloat had been ignited, though still muted by the shadows looming over you as we brainstormed ideas. Olivia suddenly tapped on her phone, a spark of inspiration lighting her eyes. What if we had a talent show? It would involve the community, and everyone could showcase their skills. The entry fees could help fund your dad's treatment. I studied her. You really think people would participate? Absolutely. Think of the kids and adults who are eager to send a message through art, music, dance. They'll want a chance to give back. She implored, her enthusiasm contagious. Before I knew it, I was swept into the whirlwind of planning, managing the chaos and excitement that simmered beneath my thick skin. Maybe I could drum up enough courage to be vulnerable, to allow my past with Olivia to merge with the present in an unexpected way. And just like that, our conversations shifted from hopeless despair to scheduling a day to gather volunteers and talents. Even as we discussed the event, I remained haunted by the shadow of my father's condition. I was thrust into the spotlight of community, but what if I failed? What if I stood there, heart racing, as nobody came to support? I could see Olivia's encouragement mixed with her understanding of the uphill climb ahead. I could sense that familiar warmth igniting a flicker of courage within me, but the other half of me trembled at the thought of failing those who rallied around me. The days that followed blurred together, a wave of preparations that seemed endless. Each time I stepped out of my apartment, the reality of my father's situation pressed against my chest like a tight band, threatening to choke any semblance of relief. The constant worry wrapped around me like a shadow, unyielding and cold. And just like that, the day of the event arrived. I stood in front of the gathering crowd, the chatter of voices melding into a background hum. My heart raced as I glanced out at the faces of my neighbors and acquaintances who had come to support me, their concern painted across each expression. I felt a mix of vulnerability and gratitude, yet anxiety gnawed at my insides. As the first performer stepped forward, a young girl with a bright smile, my eyes strayed to Olivia standing at the front, her enthusiasm contagious. And for an instant, I caught myself grinning at her as she waved me on, encouraging me to embrace this moment, this fragile connection to possibility. But as I took a deep breath and stepped toward the microphone, a text message suddenly flashed across my phone. A number I didn't recognize. Gulping down dread, I hesitated momentarily, fists clenched at my side as I quickly glanced at the screen. "We need to talk urgently about your father's treatment options." My heart plummeted, thoughts racing with panic. There was no way I could do this now. Just as I opened my mouth, about to deliver a few words to my supporters, the unfamiliar number pressed against the weight of uncertainty, and my mind reeled with what this might mean. I'd stepped into the light, but the shadows still whispered, promising that this journey was far from over. The talent show unfolded like a vivid dream, the laughter of children and cheers of encouragement creating a symphony of hope around me. Every performance brought a wave of connection, threading through the crowd like a shared heartbeat. Yet as the applause cascaded, my heart remained shackled to the anxiety swirling within. The text message had ignited a smoldering worry, one that threatened to tarnish the brightness of the day. I fought to keep my composure and delivered a few words, thanking everyone for their presence and generosity. But inside, tension knotted my stomach like a tightly coiled spring. After the initial excitement, the performances melded into the background as my mind grappled with that message. The gala of community support surrounded me, but in that moment, I felt utterly alone, consumed by uncertainty as the event rolled on. I darted glances at my phone, each vibration filling me with dread. I was torn between wanting to connect with the eagerness of the crowd and the need to unravel the mystery that tugged at my heart. Finally, with a deep breath, I excused myself from the crowd, retreating to a quieter corner of the park where the sound of laughter faded, replaced by a cacophony of my racing thoughts. Each phone ring and buzz charged the air with impending news, and I rationalized my retreat as self-preservation. What if the call was bad news? But as the weight of the uncertainty pressed down, I realized putting it off wouldn't change anything. It would only amplify my dread. I dialed back the number from my missed text, my heart pounding louder than a drum. The line rang twice before a warm, almost too calm voice answered. "Hello? This is Dr. Richards. I'm calling regarding your father's treatment options. Hi." "Hello?" I stammered, trying to grasp the semblance of normalcy that had slipped from my fingers. "I received your message." There was a moment on the other end where I could almost hear him calculating how best to deliver news, a flutter of hesitation, as if weighing the impact of his words. "I understand this may come as a surprise, but we have recently discovered a newer treatment option that fits within the criteria of your father's condition. It's not widely available but has delivered promising results in clinical trials." A wave of emotion surged through me, a tumultuous mix of hope and fear. "But that doesn't mean it does come with requirements," he continued gently, "including financial assistance, which we can help facilitate. I'd recommend coming in for a consultation as soon as possible." Financial assistance? My mind raced. "You mean I won't have to face a life or death decision alone?" "Exactly. We have programs designed for circumstances just like yours. If it sounds like something you'd want to explore, we can set an appointment." I blinked back tears as I considered the fragility of hope offered to me, the light breaking through the fog of despair. "Yes, I'd like that." "Good. I'll arrange for the earliest available slot. You'll be hearing from my office shortly with the details." After hanging up, I took a moment to let the flood of emotions wash over me. Relief coursed through my veins like cool fresh water after a long drought, though it mingled with the ever-present fear of what lay ahead. Gathering myself, I returned to the talent show, determined to bask in the shared moments of warmth and community that wrapped around me. The ambience was electric, filled with laughter and joy as a local band took to the stage. I let myself be swept into the moment, breathing more deeply than I had in weeks. Olivia caught my eye, a knowing smile dancing on her lips, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a glimmer of the connection between us, the memories we shared and the vulnerability we were both learning to embrace in this healing space. But just as I felt the warmth of rekindled hope, another text notification flashed on my screen, hijacking my attention. I glanced down slowly, unable to shake the gnawing feeling that this time, it wouldn't be good news. "I'm sorry. I heard back from your father's previous medical provider. They insist on termination of all previous coverage due to your current financial situation." This will complicate matters for you greatly. My stomach twisted at the message. The shadow of the previous anguish loomed back, thick and foreboding. The tiny flicker of hope that had ignited just moments ago began to sputter, and I was left grappling with the harsh reality of an uphill battle stretching endlessly before me. I turned to see the faces of those who had come to support my neighbors, friends, familiar strangers, all invested in my father's fate as much as their own, each holding a piece of my heart in this moment. But their kindness highlighted my own turmoil, and suddenly, the weight of expectation pressed down again. What if I failed them? What if the very assistance I wished for emerged as a cruel joke in the face of the relentless clock ticking against my father? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, dusk wrapping around us, the music echoed like a heartbeat. The laughter of those around me felt both beautiful and agonizing, an intricate dance between joy and despair, and I was stuck both in the moment and on the precipice of a nightmare. With hope fading, I realized this was just the beginning of yet another challenge. The lights blurred around me, and I struggled to maintain the only semblance of courage I felt slip away, caught in the shadow of uncertainty that clung tighter than before. As the evening progressed, the group of supporters around me swayed with the rhythm of the band, their lightheartedness contrasting sharply with the whirlwind inside my chest. I stood on shaky ground, trying to forget the intrusive text that had pulled me back into a cycle of despair. A nagging voice whispered that desperation would soon claim my every thought, but Olivia, with her boundless warmth and genuine light, wouldn't let me drown so easily. She sidled up, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "You should try the pie-eating contest. I signed up, and it's going to be ridiculous fun." A small smile crept onto my face, but it felt brittle under the weight of my concerns. "But, just come on. One moment at a time, right?" she insisted, nudging me forward, her enthusiasm infectious, almost impossibly so. I could hardly resist her charm as she pulled me away from the edge of my turmoil and towards the far side of the park where laughter spilled over in waves. The laughter felt Hilinga gentle balm to my frayed nerves. Somehow, even in my inner chaos, I felt a trace of kinship in her playful defiance against the darkness we both faced. Yet, as we joined the circle of faces, their excitement over bowls of whipped cream and crusted pastries temporarily distracted me from my worries. The contest kicked off with a countdown, and as pie was launched and faces splattered, I felt something flicker within, a desperate yearning to break free from the shackles of my anxiety, if only for a moment. But in a blink, my phone buzzed again, slicing through the bubble of joy. I hesitated before checking it, the light from the screen nearly blinding in the twilight. There it was, an email notification from the hospital. Clenching my fists, I opened it, dreading the implications. "Your father's prior authorization has been formally denied as per policy." Suddenly, the world slowed as I read the words again, a whirlwind of emotions ripping through me, clawing at my throat. Panic surged in my chest. I muttered, pulling away from the mishmash of dazzling chaos around me. "Hey, what's wrong?" Olivia's voice cut through my panic. There was no judgment in her gaze, just concern and compassion. "It's just the insurance. They denied it," I whispered, feeling my voice quiver. "What am I going to do? I thought we had some hope." She reached for my hand, squeezing it as if her warmth had the power to chase away the consuming darkness. "Listen, I know this feels overwhelming, but you aren't alone in this. We'll figure it out together. You don't have to carry it all." But the reassurance fell like rain on parched earth, unable to penetrate the storm roaring within. What if I'm too late? What if nothing changes? My heart raced as I faced her, seeking guidance but only finding more confusion in her eyes. In that instant, I noticed a flicker of a movement in the crowd nearby. A little girl, perhaps 6 or 7, with sticky fingers and a face smeared with pie filling, giggled and turned to her friend as they shared a secret joke. For just a heartbeat, I was drawn in by her laughter, its purity wrapping around me like a warm embrace. I wanted to capture that innocence, that freedom, but it slipped through my fingers like sand. Just let it out. Cry, scream, or even laugh, just don't bottle it up. It won't change what's happening, but it might give you a moment to breathe, Olivia encouraged, her voice steady despite the weight pressing against my chest. The words latched onto my core, pulling at the dam I had built around my emotions. For the first time, I let myself feel the onset of tears stinging my eyes, the frustration spilling over like a stream finally breaking its banks. I turned away, the raw emotion spilling over me, hot and relentless. "Let it go," she murmured, her presence anchoring me even in turmoil. She stepped closer, allowing me the space I needed as I squeezed my eyes shut, releasing the pain I had clutched for too long. I heard the clarity in her voice pierce through my despair. "There's still time. You're not fighting this battle alone." But even amid her hope, I floundered in my uncertainty. How could I trust in the concept of time when it felt elastic and relentless? It felt as if my father's life hung precariously in balance against the ticking of the clock. And just as the pie-eating contest ended with raucous cheers, I received another notification. One more email that brought my heart plummeting to the depths. "Due to previous denials, your father is also being considered for a hospice transition, effective immediately." Olivia's comforting grip faltered as realization washed over men. One of us could escape this labyrinth. Paralyzed by the shock, I felt the laughter around me fade into nothing, leaving the stark reality echoing louder than the jubilant screams of the contest. As the last rays of sunlight faded, casting long shadows that enveloped the park, an eerie calm washed over me. In that moment, I knew I had officially stepped onto a precarious precipice, neither fully returning to where I was before nor accepting the new path stretching ahead. It was then, amidst the laughter that felt miles away, that I understood my journey was far from over. Each step forward now brimming with new challenges and uncertainties, weighed down by an emotional storm that showed no signs of easing. As the laughter of the contest faded into the twilight, the chill of uncertainty settled over me like an unwelcome shroud. I looked around the park, where families still mingled, their joy so vivid and loud that it only intensified the silence encasing me. I could barely breathe, the reality of my father's situation strangling the air from my lungs. Olivia stood beside me, her expression a mix of concern and determination. "We should go somewhere quiet. You need to breathe. Can you do that?" she urged gently, her eyes searching mine for a flicker of resolve. I nodded, though the movement felt automatic, my mind spiraling deeper into the abyss of despair. I followed her, moving through the crowds, past the happiness that felt like a foreign language I could no longer understand. Each joyful laugh echoed like a cruel reminder of how unfair life could be. No one coming here expected catastrophe. Yet it hovered so close, tearing at the edges of my sanity. We wandered to a small gazebo shrouded in strands of fairy lights. The calming glow painted soft shadows against the wooden structure, offering sanctuary in the swirling chaos outside. As I settled onto a bench, my heart feeling as heavy as stone, Olivia perched beside me, her presence a quiet promise of support. I broke off, the words clogging my throat. "I'm afraid it's all slipping away, and I won't be able to stop it." "I know," she whispered, "but please just breathe with me." She inhaled deeply, and I mimicked her, focusing on the air flowing in and out, through the tightness in my chest. Slowly, the panic eased, if only for a moment, and I felt a thread of connection form with her quiet resilience as we sat there. My phone buzzed again, the vibration jolting my heart to life once more. With trembling hands, I pulled it from my pocket, expecting the weight of regret to crush me, but instead found a simple message from Jessica, my younger sister. "I can't do this without you. Love you. Let's figure it out together." The sincerity in her words pierced through my emotional fog, summoning an unexpected warmth. My sister, though burdened in her own right, was reaching out. That recognition that I was not alone in this struggle could be a flicker of hope. "Jessica wants to talk," I said softly, relief flooding through my veins. Olivia turned to me, a small smile gracing her lips. "See? Even in the darkest times, there are hints of light. We just need to look for them." But I couldn't shake the gnawing worry. As the night deepened and the stars began to twinkle above, it highlighted how fragile life was, how quickly things could change. "Olivia, what if it's not enough? What if she's right and we're too late?" The question hung between us like a heavy fog, thick and suffocating. but rather than crumble under the weight of the unknown. Olivia turned to me and said, "You're taking steps that matter. You're still in this fight, and that's worth everything. Don't minimize your impact or the love you two share." Her words washed over me like a gentle tide, sweeping away some of the anxiety that clung to my heart. I took a shaky breath, feebly attempting to absorb her wisdom. With a newfound determination, I sent a quick message back to Jessica, signaling my desire to talk. A response came back almost immediately. When? Now? It was a lifeline, and I latched onto it with fervor. "Meet me near the park entrance," as I stood to leave. The sound of rustling leaves accompanied US's Symphony of Hope coaxing us forward. However, as we made our way back through the park, I noticed a shift in Olivia's demeanor. She paused, her gaze distant as she squinted against the darkness. "What's wrong?" I asked, concern creeping into my voice. I just had this weird feeling," she replied, her brow furrowed, "like something about to change. I can't explain it, but whenever I sense something significant, it's usually tied to something more than just thoughts." Her words sent a chill through me. It felt like a premonition gearing up to shake the very foundations we had clung to, a reminder that the path ahead could lead us somewhere breathtaking or devastating. Before I could respond, a figure stepped out from behind the trees, tall and imposing, a silhouette against the glow of the lamp posts. My heart raced as I recognized him, a face from my past I hadn't seen in years. "Hey, there's something I need to tell you," he called, his voice slicing through the quiet night air like a sharp blade. The earth beneath me felt like quicksand, my footing slipping away as emotions coiled tightly around my chest. I glanced at Olivia, and in her eyes, I saw a reflection of my own disbelief, a collision of past and present that could either pull me apart or set something into motion. I was wholly unprepared for it. As the figure drew nearer, I braced myself for the impact of his words. The air crackled with a tension I couldn't shake as the figure emerged from the shadows. With every step he took, the memories I had buried ignited in a painful blaze. Andrew, my childhood friend, my first loss. He had disappeared from my life without a trace, and now here he was, as if conjured by the very thoughts that haunted me. "Andrew," I said, my voice barely a whisper, the name tasting foreign on my tongue. "What are you doing here?" He hesitated for a moment, a mixture of vulnerability and determination washing over his features. "I came to find you," he said, his eyes flicking toward Olivia, who remained a silent observer, sensing the complexity of the moment. "I know things have been tough, and I wanted to see if you're okay." I wanted to scoff as anger swelled within me. Okay. How could I be okay? I had been drowning in uncertainty, battling a reality that was cruel and unyielding. Instead, I found myself quieting those tumultuous feelings. Perhaps I needed to hear what he had to say, no matter how it twisted my heart. "We're not kids anymore," I managed, the bitterness in my voice creeping through the cracks I had fought so hard to seal. "You vanished without a word. The world changed, and you just left. I know, and I have no excuse," he replied, his voice heavy with regret. "But I thought of you every day, of the friendship we shared. I came back because I wanted to help if you'd let me." The defensiveness swirled within me, fighting against the flicker of hope that dared to rise. Did he really mean it? Could past grievances be washed away in the face of new burdens? Before I could answer, a sound ripped through the air, a harsh scream, followed by the crash of glass shattering somewhere in the distance. The laughter and chatter of the park dissolved into a murmur of confusion, and my heart raced as I exchanged alarmed glances with Andrew and Olivia. "What was that?" Olivia asked, her eyes wide. "Stay here," I instructed, fear clawing at my throat. I took a hesitant step forward, propelled by an instinct to protect. An urge to investigate the source of the chaos. A blaring alarm echoed through the night, and my pulse quickened. But Andrew grabbed my arm. "Don't go alone. Whatever it is, it could be dangerous." Refusing to let fear dictate my actions, I pulled free, but his grip remained strong. "Please," he said, desperation lacing his voice. "I don't want to lose you again. Let's go together." With one last glance at Olivia, I nodded. Something compelled me to trust him. We moved cautiously through the park, the fairy lights now casting eerie shadows, guiding our way. As we approached the growing crowd, the source of the commotion revealed itself. A car lay overturned, smoke billowing from the engine. Sirens wailed in the distance, a cacophony of urgency that drowned out the chaos still rippling through the spectators. Somewhere amid the mayhem, a tiny figure stood frozen, a little girl clutching a teddy bear, lost in this world tumbling with confusion. My heart cracked open as I rushed forward. "Hey, sweetie," I knelt before her, trying to soothe the fear cascading through her eyes. "Can you tell me where your parents are?" Tears streamed down her face, and she shook her head, pointing a trembling finger toward the wreck. They were in there. The realization hit me like a punch in the gut. "Stay right here, okay? They'll find them, I promise." I shot a glance back at Andrew, who was now on his phone, frantically tapping a message and scouting the scene for help. He looked up, catching my eye, and for the first time, I saw anger, his face a reflection of the storm that raged in me. What if they can't be saved? I hated the desperation clawing at my heart, the way it made me feel frantic and hopeful, and my voice trembled as I responded. "Then we will be there for her. That's what matters now." Before he could argue, I dashed toward the wreckage, weaving through the people pulling out their phones, taking videos instead of assisting. A flicker of frustration ignited within me. How could they stand there, preoccupied with their recording devices, while a child stood alone? As I approached the overturned vehicle, I was met by a sight that turned my stomach. The jagged metal glinted wickedly in the streetlights, and I could see shadows shifting within. I felt the warmth of anger mixing with sorrow, fighting against the dread rising in my throat. But then, just as swiftly, a surge of determination enveloped me. "Help me," I shouted, urgently pointing toward the bystanders, eyes pleading for Simeone Anito step in. And then she appeared, a woman breaking through the crowd, her features familiar yet disorienting. My heart jolted. It was Jessica, my sister, her face as pale as paper, fear etched deep within her expression. "Please, they have to be okay," she cried, reaching for my hand. In that instant, everything shifted. My heart ached not only for this little girl but also for the fissures that now spread among us between the past and present, hope and despair. The love in my sister's gaze kindled a flicker of strength within. May wasn't alone in this. Yet, as I glanced back at Andrew, a sudden unease washed over me. In the depth of this traumatic moment, a startling realization hit me. Last time I had seen him was during a family tragedy when he had promised to stand by my side. Yet he had disappeared. "Andrew?" I heard my voice trembling. He turned slowly, confusion and hurt mingling in his expression as he faced me. "What? Why now?" I asked, desperation pushing the words from my lips. "Why are you here?" But before he could answer, the reality of the scene unfolded in front of us. My sister's tears, the child's sobs, the sirens calling in the distance, and before I could gain my bearings, I felt time stand still, the weight of our past pressing heavily upon my chest, drawing us back toward uncharted territory where heartbreak and healing intertwined. Andrew's presence, once a comfort, now felt entwined with the storm brewing in my soul, leading us into an unknown future that threatened to upheave everything we once thought we knew. How could I be the anchor in this chaotic sea when I was still trying to decipher my own strength? The question lingered, sharp and poised, as the night deepened around us, leaving me hanging on a precipice of emotion, teetering between hope and despair, and poised for whatever came next. I never anticipated how everything would come together, or rather, how it would all come apart. Moments melded into each other, memories clashed with present-day worries, each one relentless in its pursuit. Much like my thoughts that fluttered, desperate to land on solutions to problems that seemed to multiply faster than I could address them, that I felt like standing at the threshold between chaos and possibility. After that night, everything shifted, and our lives twisted under the weight of uncertainty. The accident with the overturned car a catalyst, it seemed, for unraveling the layers that cloaked my family dynamics further. Fueled by adrenaline and a frantic need to act, I moved through the crowds, searching for the source of my sister's fear, for answers to lend clarity to the turmoil in my heart. The sight of Jessica, trembling yet courageous, drew me to her as if she were a lighthouse beacon in a raging storm. "We have to help them," I said, urgency coursing through me, an emergency cable anchoring my wavering hope. Together, we tried to comfort the child caught in the chaos, her innocent confusion echoing the turmoil swirling within us all. Each tear translating to an echo of frustration for everything that wound through my life, a painful reminder of the uncertainties hanging around my father's health, the financial turmoil drowning my heart, and the shadows of lost relationships that flickered in and out of focus. "Where are your parents?" I asked the little girl, holding her small hands in mine, steadying her as her sobs echoed in my ears. Her eyes were wide, seeking solace, the depth of her fear palpable. Standing beside me, Andrew spoke, urgently directing the crowd toward forming a cohesive effort. "We need to keep the area clear for emergency responders. Can someone call 911? His voice, authoritative and calm, reminded me of the strength I had long missed from our friendships. But where was that strength when things began to get overwhelming for me? "Call 911, came a voice from the mass of spectators, as if Andrew's assertiveness inspired others to engage rather than spectate. I glanced at him for a moment, a flicker of shared purpose between us amid the tumult as sirens wailed in the distance. Jessica stepped closer, her resolve clear. "Well, figure this out," she murmured, offering me the solid grip of support I desperately needed. "We'll find a way. Together." It struck me then, as unfamiliar as it felt, how vitally important it was to face our fears alongside those we loved. The previous walls I'd built around myself, around my family, started to fade under the fierce light of a new truth, one that demanded vulnerability but also hinted at redemption. Moments passed in a blur, and as the emergency responders navigated the wreckage with skillful precision, I felt the grip of anxiety loosening. We were no longer solitary ships in the heavy fog, but part of a community rising to hold each other up against the tides threatening to sweep us away. In that moment, surrounded by the cacophony of sirens and shouted commands, I faced my truth. Life was unpredictable, often painful, yet it was also filled with pockets of resilience. Each connection in that crowd, each person stepping up to support someone they might not even know, illuminated the space between despair and hope. "Are you okay?" Andrew's voice broke into my thoughts, full of concern. I think we will be," I admitted, conviction twining itself to my words. I looked deep into his eyes, searching for any remnants of the boy who had run away from everything, or perhaps the man who was finally ready to face that past and rekindle the connection that was now pressed against our shared burdens. It was in that moment, standing with my sister and surrounded by strangers united in purpose, that I saw how the threads of our lives could intertwine in ways beyond comprehension, transforming remnants of heartache into something beautiful. Perhaps it was forgiveness that would lead us down this unexpected path, or acceptance of the chaos inherent in our lives that, as the night quieted, the little girl was carefully led away by the responders, our quick actions ensuring she wouldn't be left in that vulnerable space forever. Jessica squeezed my hand, and for the first time, the fear that had clung to me like a damp cloak lifted, ever so slightly. In the wake of it all, I turned to Andrew, my voice steady. "I don't want to keep fighting alone." "I don't want you to either," he replied. As the threads of our past began to reconcile with what lay ahead, I felt the ache of sadness but also a sense of liberation. Despite the darkness, I wanted to trust again. I wanted to believe that even after all we'd endured as a family, even amid the looming uncertainties surrounding my father's illness, our love could propel us toward the light. And in that understanding emerged the essence of what I had long been seeking: connection through vulnerability, a shared narrative that expanded the realms of our existence. Then, paving the path forward, something shifted within me. The urgency of our challenges and the heartbeats that flourished around us combined to form a chorus of hope, a melody that beckoned us to rise again. "We'll face whatever comes next," I assured Andrew and Jessica, determination knitting a newfound strength within, leaving aside the fear that had tainted my previous thoughts as we emerged from the depths of that chaotic night. A clarity swept over me, a promise of reconciliation, not just with each other, but within ourselves. And as we stood united, the stars above twinkled, whispering a final note that resounded deep inside. The journey of healing and forgiveness had only just begun, and together, we would navigate its many twists and turns, hand in hand, heart to heart, because love, after all, has a way of finding its way back, even when we've strayed from its warmth. In that truth, I discovered the power of possibility, the grace in vulnerability, a path taking us home, lighting the way through the darkest night.